All right. I will say hello and welcome back to another episode of All About Balance. And today I'm joined by none other than Louis Bricusse. Hello, sir. How's it going?
Hello, mate. Yeah, good. Good to be here. Thanks for
Absolutely.
having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm just going to dive right in, and I want you to talk a little bit about the fundraiser that you did most recently, why you did it, how was it, all of that stuff.
Right, okay. So I'm not a endurance athlete, yeah, at all. Like I love mixed martial arts. I love lifting weights. I love sparring, hitting pads. I'm fucking obsessed with jiu-jitsu. But like running is it's just not my bag, right? I like doing 5Ks. I'll run to the gym, a 10K. If someone says, "Do you want to do one?" I'm up for it. But I'm not by no means am I into endurance events. At the start of lockdown last year, everyone was doing like these 5K challenges, right? And I said to a group of my mates, I was like, fuck it, let's just do a marathon. Yeah, I was like, everyone's doing these 5Ks. And like I guess, deluded, I really underestimated a marathon basically. I was like 50-year-olds do marathons that have like never been in the gym. I've seen people that are a bit overweight, like past the finish line. I'm like, I'm in the prime of my fucking life. Like, we've got this. And it took about 3 hours to convince them. And they were like, okay, let's do it. And on the Monday, we decided we were going to do it. On the Saturday, we set off. And it was fucking hideous. Yeah. Like, they all completed it. I canned it. Yeah. Which is, it irks my soul. It really does. I canned it with about 1.5 kilometers to go.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish I didn't. And I will do one again now. But at about 30 kilometers, I was just fucked. Like, my hip flexors absolutely singing. My quads were shot. My knees were in pain. It's such a bizarre pain. It's like, they say you hit a wall. It's like you don't hit a wall and climb over the wall. It's like, I am the fucking wall. Like, there's no for me. And I hadn't trained, and it was grim. But I really met my ego in there. Yeah. Like, there's part of me that thinks that I'm quite tough. I can handle myself. If I was put in like a really horrific scenario, I would always reach the helicopter to like take me back to my family. And I fucking wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I gave up, like, because of the pain. And it was really interesting to meet that part. That was about a year ago. And I kind of, I think it's important for me to do something like this once a year, like something really intense once a year. My mate Tom mentioned this David Goggins challenge. We were going to do it on the same weekend. We ended up not, because I was working. He did it. And I can remember whilst he was doing it, I was just thinking like, fuck, I want to be like in the madness with my pal. Do you know what I mean? I want to know what he's going through. And he basically, he said he was going to do it for Alzheimer's, like for an Alzheimer's charity. And if I'm honest, I'm not like an immensely charitable human, right? Like, I give money to homeless people sometimes, and I'll buy people food. And if you're with me, I'll always get you a coffee. But I've never done any sort of like fundraising stuff before in my life. It wasn't on my radar. I kind of thought, if I can do this insane thing and it bring money for someone or something, like, I might as well. And I've touched base recently with 2 foundations out in Africa. One's the Francis Ngannou Foundation. This guy called Sam Cook. He's like the black belt out there, really cool guy. And that MMA for Africa. So I approached him and said, look, I'm going to do this run. Are you up for be using you as like the fundraiser? He said, yeah, definitely. So I put it out there, and then people started paying money. So then it was like, oh Christ, now I've actually got to do this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't really train for that. Like, I think I did 1 5K that week. I'd done 10K the week prior. I've been doing, jiu-jitsu and kickboxing probably every day. So like, I'm not unfit, and it's not that my muscles aren't limber, but I didn't train specifically for it. The first one, piece of piss. Yeah, 4 miles. I think anyone who is like got a degree of like athleticism about them, you know, if you're training regularly, you can run that distance. First one was a piece of piss, and I sat down. I did it at my mum's house because where she lives, the people I'm going to meet at 4 in the morning are a lot less strange or dangerous than the people I'm going to meet at 4 in the morning where I live. And I rang my mate Tom, and I was like, mate, is this easy? Like, is it light work? And he just started laughing down the phone. It was like, you know, give it time. Run 1 is great. Run 2, you know, not bad. Run 3 is fine. Run 4, I think run 4 is at 8 at night, and then it starts to like, it's like, okay, this is going to be difficult. I'm fueling like through this day, you know, I'm eating oats, I'm getting my glycogen, my glucose, I had some protein, I'm well hydrated, you know, I'm having my dialytes. Run 5 and 6 are in the middle of the night. My brother did run 5 with me. That was really tough. Waking up and doing that first one at midnight is like very strange. Run 4 in the morning, I did with this guy, Coach Finn. He's one of my boxing coaches. That was equally hard and very bizarre. And then after 6, for me, everyone was like horrendous. I got to the point I didn't really want to eat. Once you pass like the marathon mark, it's like I'm not hungry. You know, it's hard to eat. My routine is just gone out the window. I don't want to be around anybody. Like, you know, my girlfriend and us were at my mum's, and they're like talking and connecting and having conversation. I just want to be in a dark room with like myself and the devil. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, yeah, I wasn't in a normal place. But at the same time, like, money's coming in, you know, and people were really engaging in it, and people are sending their support. And I spoke to Rupert, like one of the founders for the foundation, and I was like, is this going to help? Because, you know, like 8 runs in, when my body and my mind is absolutely fucked, I'm like, is this doing anything here? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he was like, Louis, we're like essentially a broke foundation. Yeah, he was like, we have all of our founders have like day jobs. We neither have like the financial means nor the time to invest what we need to into this foundation to get where it wants to be. He was like, what you're doing is huge for us. And it was just like, okay, like I've got to do it. 9, 10, I wrote down, so I like journaled every single one and sort of how I found it. But 10, 11 and 12 are still, there's a blank space in my journal where like I'm yeah, I couldn't think. It was just, okay, next one, get it done, next one, get it done. It's not like running 48 miles in one hit, right? That's from Twickenham to Milton Keynes, and then you've got to run around a little bit. I don't think I've got that in the tank, to be honest. Having like the rest time is great, because like you can stretch and you know, have a cold bath and a hot shower, etc. But it's so grueling. I found it so grueling, but it was amazing. And I guess what they took from it is I got to give them this thing. Do you know what I mean? I got to give them this gift, and it's like, if that buys loads of like little African kids geese, yeah, that's like so fucking amazing. Do you know what I mean? Even if they never hear about what I did, never hear my name, like if that just turns up as a parcel and it's like, here you go, that's a really beautiful thing that I was part of. 2, it was really cool to feel like love from the people around me, you know, and people that I didn't expect, you know, people that like sort of connected through via Instagram, like sending me 20 quid, and then seeing some of my videos or the state that I'm in, like 9 runs in, and sending me another 20 quid. And like, that was really amazing. And for me personally, I think like we all have, I'm like 6'2", I'm 81 kilos, I train a lot, like I don't look like I guess a weak or timid man, right? But we all have like a suspicion of self, and I can still be like the guy around the group of lads who like just wants their approval. Do you know what I mean? The guy who's trying to prove himself. Like, I see myself as like the skinny, weak man, in my head, I can still be like that. At like 5 o'clock in the morning, after I finished this last run, I was laying in my mum's back garden. I'm looking up at the stars, and I sat up, and like the word that came out of my mouth, it was like, I'm a fucking machine. And it wasn't it almost wasn't like it wasn't me that said it. It was like my subconscious spoke through my conscience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was pretty amazing. It was like, yeah, I did this obscene thing. And I felt all right, to be honest. My toenail fell off. I had bruises on the soles of my feet. I didn't even know the soles of your feet could bruise.
Yeah.
My ankles were really fucking sore, but my knees were okay. Like DOMS wise, I've had worse pain in my legs after like heavy leg sessions. And like, I've been training this week, so it's doable. It's your mind. Do you know what I mean? Physically, if you've got 4 miles in you, you can do that challenge. But it's just if you're willing to not sleep, not really eat, and persevere, and you can do it.
I mean, okay, there is so much in that 10-minute segment that we can break down, and I think we should, right? Firstly, I think it's really important to congratulate you. I think the honesty that you've shown in that small portion, not only you say, oh, I'm not a very charitable person. Well, I mean, I think being charitable is a relative definition, right? Being charitable, what I was taught, especially as a child, is not necessarily going out and raising thousands of pounds every month for various charities, but instead it's making sure that your family are looked after, right? And making sure that your friends are looked after and all that sort of thing. My mum always used to teach me that charity starts at home, and when home is fine, then you can go and be charitable in the world, right? But I think that you should be congratulated for, first of all, raising the money you did, right? I think that's an absolutely fantastic achievement. This is no knock on yourself, but you're no celebrity, right? You haven't got a platform where millions of people are willing to donate money to you, and yet you still raise an incredible figure for a charity, as you've already explained, that basically have no money and are still just trying to fight through to get the cause that they want, right? So I think you should be incredibly proud of yourself just for the endeavor, right? Just for raising the money you did. And secondly, I think it's amazing, absolutely amazing, the way that you have broken down the marathon attempt, right? The fallout from the marathon attempt, both facing your ego and the positives and the negatives that you took from that, but also then being like, oh, okay, well, fuck this, I'm going to go and do 48 hours of running, essentially, and not quitting. Right now, maybe you didn't quit because there was external pressure for you not to quit. Right, you knew that there was a foundation in Africa that wanted your funds, right, wanted your gift, but there was also people online that were following you and as you rightly say, supporting you, right? People you never met, people supporting you, and I think that's something that's phenomenal. Is the community aspect, right? Did you feel that community aspect as you were running? Like what was going through your head as you were running?
No, to be honest, and not because like it wasn't there, but I'm just I had like I did the same route like every time, and I'd leave my house and sometimes I turn left and sometimes I turn right, but I did essentially the same route, and I'd have like little markers. And it was more like, okay, right, I'm at that point. Like, okay, I'm at this point. Right, I'm at that point. I did have like, my mate, a guy from work just turned up at my door on the first day and was like, I'm going to run these next 2 with you. That was amazing. Running with my brother was really, really cool. I came down at Saturday night and he was pissed. He'd had a few beers and he was like, I kind of fancy it. I was like, I need your help. And so he did some with me. My dad like cycled behind me for one of them, and that was amazing. Finn, did the 2 in the morning. Lexi did one with me. Like it was great having other people there. But that means that you can kind of have a conversation and you can forget about sort of running in the pain. But it is you're on your own. Do you know what I mean? And I guess somewhere, right, you're doing this for someone else. But it's for me, it was quite an internal thing, and I actually quite liked the ones that I did without anybody, because they're like, you really, like, you're talking to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Come on, easy money, come on. And I think, yeah, it was just sort of grinding through, really.
And I think the one thing I wanted to talk about, and maybe, you know, this is going to be a longer conversation, but you're clearly very aware of the internal dialogue and monologue that you have with yourself, whether it be what you determine to be your conscious or your subconscious, right? Whether it be the conversation you had during the marathon, where you just decided enough is enough, right? The pain is too much, that it is what it is. Maybe it's the when you were saying that when you're in your group of friends, you still at times feel like you have to prove that you're worthy of that friendship group, right? And then maybe it's when you completed the challenge and you sat in your mom's back garden, and that's like a hero moment in a film, you know what I mean? When you sit up and you're like, yeah, I'm a fucking machine.
Yeah.
You know, do you feel like you took something from those internal monologues when you were running on your own? Because I feel like for me, specifically, you know, I'm probably the worst runner in the entire universe, right? But I feel like it would be easier for me to run on my own than it would to run with people, right? So do you feel like you took something from those?
I guess, like, it's not a race.
Sure.
That is the thing. Like, so I'm not. There's no pressure in the sense that, like, I'm not running next to anyone thinking, oh, they're fitter than me, they're better than me. Why can't I do it, you know, as quick as her? Why that's not going through your head. So it's just you. You know, you've set the challenge against yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I guess that's how I'd answer that question. You know, there's no, you're not competing against anyone else. So anyone else's kind of, I guess, judgment or thought isn't even there. And also, I'm quite aware, if I'm 28 miles in and someone's telling me that, like, push harder, it's like, bro, go bang out 28 miles and then come and talk to me about pushing harder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it is just it's you versus you with any of those kind of events, I think. Especially when it's not like a structured thing. Do you know what I mean? I did it off my own back. And it's funny that you mentioned that. So one of the reasons I bailed on that marathon, all right, for 3 reasons. 1, because I quit. Yeah. 2, I had so much pain in my hip flexors. I was like, if I I'd hobbled for about, I don't know, 15k.
Jesus.
And I was like, if I carry on, am I going to cause, like, damage to me that means I'm not going to be training in the sport that I love, like, come next week? And 3, all my mates were miles ahead of me. I ran it with 3 guys and they were miles ahead of me. And my ego was like, I can't be the guy who like comes through last, everyone clapping. Yeah, like, oh, well done, well done. I didn't want to, and I fucking bailed. And, like, that's not that's definitely not the Louis I want to be. That's not a part of me that I want to, like, that's, you know, I'm worrying about the external there. I'm worrying about what other people are thinking of me. So I don't really know if that answered the question.
I think it's a beautiful answer. I really do. And I'm astounded, frankly. You know, this is if we just go purely off stereotypes, right? As you've already said, you're 6 foot plus, you're an athletic guy, you're a great looking dude. You clearly, you know, you're very self-aware. It seems like you're in a wonderful relationship, if Instagram says anything. And yet you still have these problems, right? These issues, quote unquote. You still stand there and fail to your ego. And to somebody that doesn't have some of the, you know, socially accepted qualities that you have, that would seem insane. It would seem mindless. It would seem impossible, right? It would seem like you've got it all, but actually what you're struggling with is the same thing that the next man or the next female is struggling with, right? And I think the thing that is so brilliant about it is how honest you are with it, right? Because many people would not be honest about why they bailed on a marathon with their mates. And they'd be like, oh, I was just, you know, I got injured, right? But you weren't injured. You were potentially bordering on the position of injury, right? Yeah, I think the reason you state it was entirely valid. Like, who knows what damage you would have done to your hip flexors if you'd have carried on, if you had tried to push, if you had tried to really get through that last K. We don't know, right? We just don't know. But I think the things that are poignant to me is the primary and the third reason that you were saying. One is that you didn't want to be clapped through at the end. And that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like where did your ability to be so honest come from?
I think there's loads of things you said that I want to talk about. I guess the first being like, right, one, with being honest to yourself, we are all the center of our own universes, right? Outside of, if I look back past my earliest memory, there's nothingness, nothing exists. Do you know what I mean? Sky, moon. This isn't my quote, by the way. It's a man called Alan Watts. But like that, I'm the center of my universe. Yeah. So I really try, don't like succeed, but to focus on, this is my journey through life. Do you know what I mean? And someone else's, I guess, opinion or idea or their, I'm not, I reside in my own kingdom, not theirs. And I guess for me, I'm not being honest with you. I'm being honest with myself by saying that. Do you know what I mean? By saying, okay, how did you fail? Okay, let's think about that. Okay, this is why. And equally in things, how did you exceed? Okay, succeed, and this is why. And I think being honest with yourself is, for me, it's just massively important. And I don't have a reason why. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a reason why, and this because you will achieve or attain this. I just like honesty has to start with me, and then I am honest with other people to be true. That wasn't always the case, and like I guess the man you describe, like tall, you're presentable, like a beautiful relationship, not bad looking. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
Like my journey into training, like I was like Louis the Loser. Yeah, I spent more time outside like my headmistress office at primary school than anybody else. I floated from like the cool kids to the fucking dweebs to like I had no social like circles, you know what I mean? No like real group of mates. I failed like every fucking exam, every idea, every course that I did, like every opportunity I was given, I fucked it up. I got really heavily involved in like drinking drugs at a fucking early age. I was hanging around with some like real wrong uns. I did fall into a crowd of people that I love, and to say that to them, like, I love you, and they know who they are, but we all drank loads and did a lot of drugs, and my the effect that using stuff like that has to me is far different to someone else. I go insane, and the consequences were really I guess thick and thin. And like I've been to I was going to die. At 21 I ended up I was in prison. I got sent to prison just before my 22nd birthday, and I was not the man that you see in front of you today. Do you know what I mean? I was fucked, like absolutely fucked. I've been it's just been such like an abhorrent tirade of abuse and pain and abuse of like both sides. I experienced some, but I fucking gave it off as well. Do you know what I mean? And I was dangerous and reckless, and I still had like a loving part of me, and at times where I was fun to be around, but I was mental. And I lied. I lied, and I was dishonest, and like I'd cheat, and so I guess for me, like I've built this. I'm building what I want to be. Yeah, I want to be a good man. I want to be like I want to be the grandpa that like the grandkids look to and was like, he's the bollocks. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like a work in progress, I guess. So like it started from small steps, and now I guess I am sort of on the way to being that man that you described, and more.
I mean, so I think I just want to take apart the statement that you just made there and say that you're on the way. I think you're there, and you may disagree, and that's fine. But you spoke of Alan Watts, and Alan Watts is one of my favorite philosophers. But I'll reference Carl Jung, and Carl Jung says that you can't know the bliss of good, or what he determined to be good, if you don't know the extremity of your own evil, right? Well, it sounds like, from what you've just said, you've delved pretty deep into the depths of what your own evil can be, right? Of the evil that you can do to yourself and that you can do unto others. You've seen what darkness looks like in the world, and therefore you're pushing towards the light because you know what darkness is, right? So I feel like every step you take away from the darkness, and every step you take away from the portions of yourself that allow you to be that person and to step into that world, you've already won. Like, and sure, the race is never run, right? You can always continue to be better. You can always continue to be a person that you're more satisfied with, internally, right? And externally, I guess. But I think you should be a little bit kinder to yourself and appreciate what you've done already, right? I would say you're not far off being the bollocks grandpa that you want to be, right? Maybe about 50 years, but that's, if you stayed as an entire replica of yourself, I think Alan Watts would be proud, right? And I think you should be proud too. So I don't really like the statement of, I've still got long to go or whatever. Like, I don't agree. I think you're pretty much there, right? Think about, let's just compare, right? Let's do a very non-emotional comparison from what you've just said to what you've got now. So at 21, you got in some trouble with the law. You were in a crowd that you weren't comfortable with. You weren't comfortable with who you were. You were, you're engaged in some substance abuses and all this sort of stuff. Well, a week ago, or just a couple of weeks ago, you ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, right? You were able to do that with your mom, your girlfriend in the house, ready to support you, ready to fucking fill you with all the oats that you can consume, as much Lucozade as you can get down you, all that stuff, right? You had a girlfriend that was happy to run with you, a dad that was happy to cycle with you, friends that were happy to run with you, people that were willing to reach out and give you money and their support and their time and their effort, right? And you were also able to do it, right? Do you think the 21-year-old could have done that? Do you think the 21-year-old could have even been in a position where they were able to fathom the idea of this entire thing, right? I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah, that's you're correct. Do you know what I mean? You're right. And I have had moments of like being sat in like my old flat, and like I'd have been meditating or doing some reading, writing in the morning and drinking my coffee, and like I'm almost, or I am like, I've cried. You know what I mean? I've cried during the meditation. I'm like, fuck me, like this is so this is it. Do you know what I mean? This is like the evidence. It works if you work it. So work it, you're worth it. Like it is, you don't have to live in this place of I guess pain and self-destruction. Like I know I'm a very far more evolved version of myself. Do you know what I mean? But in the same breath, like there's I think it can be beneficial to not have the to be totally content with like where you are or who you are. You know what I mean? Because like it's like, no, like I want more. I can do better, and there is still things to like. I can still act out in sort of addictive ways. I can still be a cock and like rude and I got into an argument with a customer on the phone the other day, and I rarely have these. I was like, why am I even engaging in this? Do you know what I mean? And we're like screaming and shouting at each other around the phone. It had like a knock-on effect. But that's like, what triggered me in that? How can I step back from that? How can I not? And there's work to do. But I am, you spoke about that 20-year-old boy, or even younger, if I look at like my 16-year-old self, like, if I was sitting down, I'd look him in the eyes and I'd be like, it's going to be all right. And you're going to be a fucking machine. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, just don't, almost don't worry. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be okay. And it is, I mean.
Of course. And I think, look, you spoke about your love of MMA and your love of combat sports and whatever. And, you know, I think that hard times breed hard people, right? Shout out to Tim Kennedy. But the thing that comes across to me most drastically when you talk is that I don't think that you would be the person you are if you weren't the person you were at 15, right?
Absolutely.
Because you wouldn't, and this idea of darkness and light and Carl Jung just sort of reverberates around in my head. And, you know, you wouldn't be able to know, one, how well you've done to get where you are, one, how good it is to be the person that you are, but also that there's more to do, because you've seen the extremity of just how dark it can get, right? And what's beautiful is that you'd sit down to that 15-year-old and be like, look, like it's going to be all right, you know, because that 15-year-old didn't believe it was going to be all right, right? Mm-hmm. The idea of being all right didn't exist. The idea, I imagine, I mean, obviously I wasn't your 15-year-old self, but the idea is just, we'll just get through the next day. We'll get through the next hour. We'll just see if we can continue to survive for this next thing and whatever. But where you are now is a position where you could look, and rather than looking at an hour, you're looking at 50 years to say, I want to be this granddad. I want to be whatever, right? And I think that it's remarkable. Like, it really, really is remarkable. And I think that if you pertain that to an MMA fighter, right? Let's take Francis Ngannou, right? Just because he's the most recent news story. If you listen to his story, as I smash my desk, if you listen to his story, right, there is about as much trauma in that as a man can take, right? About as much trauma. And what does he say at the end of it? He's like, well, I only determined myself to be successful because if my mom gets sick, I can pay for her medical bills. Like, that's serious shit. Do you know what I mean? That's not just and again, this is nothing wrong with people who just want to make money out of fighting, but that's not a Conor McGregor, for instance. And he's not without his own trauma, of course, but his idea was, I want to get in, be a millionaire and get out, right? That's what he's always said. Whereas Francis is like, I want to get in and secure my mother's health. Mm. It's a very, very different type of perspective, right? And I feel like for yourself, the moment that you described when you were sat in your mom's garden and you said, I'm a fucking machine, like, that should be a cornerstone to the next however many months or years of your life, because you proved to yourself that you are worthy of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Of your own approval. Because you're right. I mean, who fucking cares about what the three mates that were running ahead of you were thinking? Because they're not undertaking the experience of this life that you are, right? They may not have been the 15-year-old self that you were, right? So the very notion that you got 98% of the way through a marathon is unbelievable in its own right. And you being able to complete the challenge that you completed. And this is what I think is so beautiful about this whole thing, is that, yes, okay, you did something charitable for MMA for Africa, and that should be commended. But you also did something charitable for yourself. And if anything, that's worth more than the money that you raised, in my opinion.
No, you know, thanks. Yeah, it's kind words, and they're true. Do you know what I mean? They're true, I guess. I'm also like, I guess I'm quite an extreme character, and if an idea is mental and doesn't really make sense, do you know what I mean? I'm kind of up for it, and like, that is it also, I think that can translate from like my I guess my active, like, addictive years, like, into now. It's like, this is why I love mixed martial arts. It's why I want to do these challenges. Do you know what I mean? They're extreme, they're tough, they're not normal. Do you know what I mean? Your average Joe isn't like, what did you do this weekend? I ran 4 miles every 48 hours. You know, this, like, I can't remember what else you said. There was a point I really wanted to touch on. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sorry.
That's absolutely fine, mate. It's not a problem. I think, because essentially all you've done, not all you've done, but one of the things that you've done is you've changed your addictive personality from negative things to what you determine to be positive things, right? And that's training, that's being kind and being honest, like addictively honest, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough, right? Because there's no such thing as just stopping an addictive personality. It just doesn't happen, right? It just doesn't. But what you are addicted to can change. And obviously for yourself, the things that you're addicted to are now physical training and the mental sides of those things. MMA is a puzzle, jiu-jitsu is a puzzle. Fucking 4 miles every 4 hours is a serious mental puzzle, and if I said you want to do 5 miles every 5 hours, you're probably like, fuck it, why not, right?
You give me a bit of time,
right?
Yeah.
A bit of recovery and a bit of training, right? But it feels like, from what you've already said, is, well, you did a marathon on no training and you did this challenge on no training. If one of your mates texted you and was like, I'm going to do a marathon tomorrow, are you in? You'd probably be like, oh, fuck's sake, yeah, I'm in. Whatever, let's do it.
Yeah, there is a possibility. I'd say yes to that. What I want to touch, you meant about the Goggin and like the past, and you said that like you wouldn't, if you weren't like the boy you were there, the man you were there, you wouldn't be the man today. Like that is so. I'd love and am grateful for like my journey. Do you know what I mean? And it's mine, and it's not the worst, and neither of it is it the easiest, but it is mine. And like it was paved with so many fuck ups and failures, and like, but it did. I guess it got me to a place where I was like, absolutely not. This is not my life anymore. And like I've done so many regrettable things. Yeah, like we could do a podcast on like. What have you done that is regrettable in your life? Yeah. In the fucking first 21 years, not even the ones recently. But like I don't regret them, if that makes sense. Like they do, they needed to happen. And like I'm fucking grateful for it, man. I look at people that won't the consequences of like their negative spirals that they're in aren't severe as mine, and they may never get off. Do you know what I mean? They may never get off that, so they'll still be sat on the same pub seat talking the same bollocks, essentially, not achieving like the wonders and the gifts that they can give to the world. My consequences like and came so thick and fast in like the early part of my life that it was almost like, all right, it's done, I've got it out of the way. Do you know what I mean? There's not, prison, I guess there isn't that much lower you can go in the eyes of like society. Do you know what I mean? I got incarcerated because Her Majesty the Queen had enough of me. And like I definitely could have gone worse, but it that journey was like, that is a drive, although it's not a conscious drive. I don't really think about it anymore. I'm like I try and look forward, not back, although I do look back. But that isn't really my drive. It's like what I want there, or what I can achieve, or what I can become, or how I can better myself and better those around me, and be, like you said, be that kind, that loving human, like that. That is what I'm focused on. Not it's definitely not like I need to prove that I'm not that A653 1DM anymore, because I'm just not. Do you know what I mean? That isn't who I am. But yeah, it's definitely, those early years, they were like the foundation of I wouldn't be here if that didn't happen. I'd be somewhere else. It may be worse, it may be better, maybe indifferent, but like it it's I'm grateful for the journey.
Absolutely. And I don't feel like you should regret. I don't really believe in regret too much.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because regret is almost wasted energy. And I've got 2 points, and one is this one, and then I'll move on to the next one. And it's wasted because you could feel guilty, you can feel shame because your conscience tells you that you did something that's not really in true accordance with what your morals are, right? But regret is, there's that age-old axiom of, you can't regret anything because it's what you wanted to do at the time, or some bullshit. But that holds some grains of truth, right, in the vial of sand that is life. And if you regretted something, it's because you didn't want to do it. But if you're going to do it, and if it's already been done, then it's done. There's very little that you can do to change the action that's already happened, right? And I think many people look back at their lives that they've done regrettable things, right? And maybe one day, when we're both grandpas, we could sit down and do a regrettable podcast, and and we can show
Sounds
the next
good.
generation. But I don't think you should regret them. One, because regret to me is also a lack of forgiveness for the self. And that's a heavy fucking burden to carry around, right? If you can't forgive yourself for the things that you've done, whether it be positive, negative, indifferent, as you say, that's a really difficult place to be. So I completely agree with you that you shouldn't regret your journey. And the second point I had is a question, really. I have a theory, or I've been told a theory. I probably definitely shouldn't claim it for myself, but that life will, let's say you're going down a path that is wrong, quote unquote. Life will offer you chances to change by throwing up a varying degree of consequences, right? Maybe you have an argument with your mom, right? Cool. Then maybe you have an argument with all of your friends. Then maybe you have an argument in the street with a stranger, and that turns into a physical altercation. Maybe then you blah, blah, blah. Life will up the ante the more and more that you continue down a path of negativity until the severity is either life or death, right? From somebody that's seen some negative things, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's always like multiple doors in front of you. There's an expression firstly about, if you have an argument with your mum, and then you have an argument with your mates, and you have an argument in the street, like there's this thing I say: if you meet one arsehole a day, they're the arsehole. If you meet two arseholes in a day, you've met two arseholes. If you meet any more than two arseholes in a day, you're the arsehole. So if you're having lots of arguments in a day, like, it's time to check yourself, not them.
Yeah.
As for the universe presenting you like opportunities, I like really I carry like a faith around something that I call like God, essentially. Yeah, that's not like a Christian or an Islamic or like a Buddhist, but like, I refer to like the universe as God. And I believe I also look at it as like, it's a loving universe, it's a loving place, and it wants the best for me, but it also I need to work. Do you know what I mean? I need to put the action in. Life is an action, a program. Sorry, life is a program of action.
Sure.
And like with that, I get, there's choices for me to make, and you either listen to them or you don't. You either take advice or take heed or take help, or you don't. You either want to break the cycle of like perpetual pain, or you don't. And like there's more to that. I'm not like a criminologist, I'm not like a drug addict like specialist. I am an addict, and I am like in recovery from addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really understand the deep depths of an addict's brain. So like, we have like street homeless drinkers and drug takers. It's like, it's easy for me to sit here and be like, yes, because you chose to be there. Do you know what I mean? There's probably levels of trauma that I can't like comprehend. But like I was given signs, and I chose to listen to something. Do you know what I mean? And there'll be others that I don't. Maybe if I hadn't done if I started doing jiu-jitsu when I was 19, or when I first got sober, maybe I'd be somewhere else in like my martial arts career. If I started, if that makes sense. If I just put it down to like my experience, yeah. And again, I feel blessed. I was on a wing in Wandsworth, right? It was like a rehab wing. There's this foundation called RAPT, Rehabilitation for Addicted Prisoners Trust, and it was like treatment, really intensive treatment. And you wrote like a lot of writing of all the mad shit that you've done, and the people that you've hurt, and how you've hurt yourself, and like examples of like when you can't stop. And it was just really apparent. It was like, oh Christ, like this is what I am. But on the board, it had like this thing about like IPP, that's indeterminate prisoners. basically no release date, or like life sentence prisoners. And I was reading it, and I had this it was almost like an out of body kind of experience, yeah, where like I imagined myself in a courtroom in front of a judge with my family there, and then being like, you know, Mr. Bricusse, although like you've shown traits of like good character and like, you know, a loving human and essentially a nice lad, you give me no choice through your actions but to sentence you to life. And like I fucking like was in this place, do you know what I mean? And that was like a big wake up call. Well, it's like, you know, that was one of those messages. Do you know what I mean? Like you, what do you want to do? Do you want to go there, or do you want to see what is unknown? That also, you know, that cycle of like, you know, the shit and the misery and destruction. I know what that was. Do you know what I mean? I know that path. It was familiar. This is like unknown. It's still unknown. So it's, I guess it's not easy. You know, if you're a certain way, and like you're a certain, I guess, type of character, or like and you are in this place of like really destructive practices, you know, it can be tough to listen to those signs. Do you know what I mean? And it's very hard to listen to like someone like across the table, you know, a drug counselor, a police officer, a teacher, a parent. You know, it's very hard to listen to them and be like, yes, you are right, I am on the wrong path. Do you know what I mean? I could achieve greatness if I listened to you. But yeah, I think, does that answer?
Absolutely. And I think the point that's sort of overarching in that one is I think it's really important that you gave a positive spin, or showed some of the positives that came from your incarceration, because, you know, I think prisons, obviously they're not a place that most people want to be in, right? Your liberty is taken away, your freedom is taken away. And whether that's right or wrong is an entirely different debate. But, you know, I think that a lot of the time those places are given very negative feedback for how you're treated, how the attempted rehabilitation happens, and all that stuff. And for you to say, well, actually, there was a program here that helped me quite massively, I think is really important, right? Because it's very bad for us to just label something as extremely as, well, it's completely negative or completely positive. The second thing I wanted to mention from what you said is, you know, what does Nietzsche say? He says, a man with a why can conquer almost any how, right? And to your point of the varying degrees of addiction and trauma and having a choice and whatever, well, as emotionless as possible, it's true, right? There is a choice for absolutely everyone. And you made a choice based on a why that was so important to you, whether it was because you didn't want to be sentenced to life, right? Or whether it was a culmination of many whys that then encapsulated into one specific why. Well, that got you to where it is today, and it continues to keep you where you are today. You touched on humans being so drawn to the path of least resistance, right? And it would be so easy for you to go and be that 15-year-old again. Why? Because, as you said, it's familiar to you, right? It's easy. You can just do it, no problems. I'm sure that there's still some people that you knew and were familiar with at 15 that's probably doing some of the same things now, 10, 15 years on, right? So for you to just be like, ah, fuck it, I'm just going to go and do that again, is easy, simple, but not beneficial, right? And it's the why, whatever that is for you, that keeps you continuing on the line of the difficult, right? The line of 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, right? It's the why.
Yeah. You know, yeah, there's a lot in that. With the prison thing and like the rehabilitation, there's it is shit. It's real shit state of affairs. It's also like underfunded, and I think it's the hardest job in the world, like being a prison guard. Yeah. And there's definitely like some motherfuckers that like choose that path. But there's also like some good people, and there's also people that it's like, this is a job. Do you know what I mean? This is a job that's going to pay me and I can put food on my family. But it's a really like, it's a tough environment for both sides of the door. there isn't a lot there. I think that rap course, I don't think that runs at Wandsworth anymore, which like when I heard it, I was like, what? I'm like, you know, you do a business course where like you can pretend and write down, which is cool, you know, it's great to start businesses, but like there's all these like Mickey Mouse nonsense fucking courses that you can do in there to get out of your cell. And it's like you've taken this thing that actually can, I'm proof that that can change your life.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like I was like loved, yeah, like the whole way through. Do you know what I mean? I had like letters coming through my door all the time from my girlfriend, from my mum, from my dad, from my brother, from my grandparents, from like relatives, aunties. Like I was shown so much love. My dad sent me 25 quid a week, like every week, for me to buy fags, phone credit, and tins of tuna. You know, I also had, I know I'm coming back to a home. Do you know what I mean? My mum is probably going to have like a bagel and smoked salmon and like poached eggs made for me. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm loved and I've got definitely a degree of privilege. There is a lot of like men or boys in there with absolutely fuck all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no, and that, I guess that is like, that can really hinder the progress of like change. You know what I mean? When there's no one, if you feel totally like fucking on your own.
What's the
and
point,
then you're
right?
also around like loads of other people that are like totally on their own. Do you know what I mean? Their story mirrors yours. There is also like, you know, if you want to, yeah, if you want to change, you can change. Do you know what I mean? But I think it was easier for me, not to take away from my decision, because it still required a degree of like work, but it was it's easier for me than some people in there. There was more, you know, yeah. I think I'll leave that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I probably should clarify my position is that there is obviously a ton of systemic failures surrounding the prison system. One, because, you know, in America especially, it's essentially slave labor, right? And in the UK, as you rightly say, there are programs that work and there are programs that are there to just keep you out of your cell but do nothing for you on the outside world. There are also, as you rightly say, and I'm drawn to sort of you know who Potter Paper is? You heard of that guy? No. So he's a rapper from Essex, and he from the age of 13, so I think he's probably like 25 now. He was in and out of prison every year, basically, for varying lengths of times. And one of the things that he was saying in a recent documentary was basically what you've just said, right? Is it's really hard when you go into prison and you're surrounded by people that have more in prison than they have outside, right? They don't have love outside. They don't have resources outside. They don't have an ability to change outside, or they don't feel like they have an ability to change outside because their environment is so dire. Whereas in prison, they have 3 meals a day, clean clothes, a bed, and they have people that can relate to them, right? So it's so much harder to just be like, like, fuck this, I'm not going to come back to prison. You know, where I grew up, there was a man, a homeless man, that used to stab people around Christmas so that he could go to prison because prison was nicer for him than outside during a Christmas period, right? And that, I mean, that's just fucking ludicrous to me, right? How can we allow people like that to suffer so badly, right? To suffer so badly that he doesn't want to do the things that he was doing, but he's gonna fucking do them anyway because that's the only salvation that he has around a certain period of a year, right? And you've got kids, I'm sure you've got a bountiful amount of stories that you meet them inside, and their stories are just debilitating, right? But you mentioned something that I think is vastly important, and that's love and support, right? With love and support, a lot can be achieved, a lot, right? Whether it be the children in Africa that you have loved and supported, and the people that donated to your cause have loved and supported, that they may, the next Francis Ngannou might come from the delivery that you organized, right? That's fucking nuts. That's fucking nuts, right? But also yourself, right? There's a revolving cyclic door of love and support. And there's all the, there's the Buddhist teachings of karma, and it comes back around and all this sort of stuff. I do want to touch slightly on your belief system, but we'll get into that after, I guess. But, I honestly, I feel that the more that you give love and support, the more people are willing to give love and support to you. It's the antithesis of what you were saying earlier when you said, if you go out and you argue with more than 2 people, you're the arsehole, right? Mm. If you argue with more than 2 people, I'm sure that more than 2 people will be willing to argue with you. But if you go out and smile at 2 people, or more than 2 people, I'm sure that more than 2 people are probably willing to smile at you, right? So, yeah. I think the love and support thing is massive, absolutely massive.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and that I do believe sort of whatever you give off, you're likely to receive. And I don't want to delve too much into like the babblings of like the law of attraction and sort of Joe Dispenza speak. But like if I leave my house in a good mood, if I've got like my affairs in order, I've done some like loving and kind and nurturing shit for me, whether that be like burpees, chin-ups, like sparred, or like reading, writing, and I've meditated, I've made myself breakfast and made, someone that I love a cup of tea. I'm then like, I'm in a good place. The next person I cross is probably going to receive like positive energy of me, which means it's unlikely I'm going to receive negativity off them. Or if I do, my reaction is less likely to be one of like defense and be like, what's up? Or just be like, well, he's off his head, onto the next thing. If I'm stressed, if I'm angry, if I'm like, unkempt, my house is a mess, I haven't had a shower, blah blah. If I'm on all that, like that is what I'm going to meet throughout my day. Do you know what I mean? That is what my life is going to look like. So yeah, I think I'm big on that. I kind of have this motto, and it's like, be on as few people's cunt lists as possible. Yeah, like stay away from them. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has them. We've all got a list of like people that we're like, here's a cunt, she's a cunt. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to be on that list. I want to be, when people say Louis, they're like, I fucking love that guy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, he makes me feel really good about myself. He's always like, he's so motivated. He's so like positive, blah, blah. I want to be on like the positive list. And I think that is like and I think that's why, having that argument with that woman, that had like a real knock-on effect. That like fucked me up for like the whole evening. It's like, because they are so rare. Yeah, it's so rare that I get into like an altercation with someone, or an argument, or a dispute, or even traffic wardens. Like, and I like loathe parking tickets. Yeah, but like, it's very rare that I get into like a sort of a conflict, or like a dialogue of like negativity with anyone. And I think it's because I really do try and like be loving. Do you know what I mean? I'm also not the perfect human being, and I do like I will bitch behind someone's back, and like I will mug someone off when they're not there, and I will collude about someone with my friend. Like, I'm also a normal fucking human. Do you know what I mean? Like, fallible person with negative traits, but I definitely try and outwardly give off like positivity. Than the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, just as a as a very quick segue, you just mentioned parking tickets. If I could give you one entry to room 101, is it parking tickets?
What's room 101?
Oh my God, please tell me. Oh no. All right. So there was a show ages ago. I can't remember who the host was, but basically room 101 was some celebrity would come on, right? It was like a comedy parody type thing. And the idea was you could put something in room 101 and it ceases to exist in the world ever again. Right. So people would put like jelly or fucking something weird and stupid that they hated, right? If you could rid the world of one thing that would make your life better, is it parking tickets?
Yeah, that, or like a seated guard. Yeah, like butt scooting. I'd put butt scooting in 101.
Oh God, well, we can no longer continue to have this conversation, I suppose, because I would have dissipated to room 101.
No, yeah, parking tickets are yeah, mate, they just infuriate me. No, they really do. I'm like, I pay tax, but I can see like otherwise we'd all be parked on the pavement, wouldn't we? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was just a minor segue. I just also wanted to just touch on slightly is you mentioned that you try and stay away from conflict as much as possible. But that's not quite true, right? Because you have conflict with kettlebells, and you have conflict with a chin up bar, and you have conflict with whoever you're sparring that day, right? But it's metered conflict.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not just abhorrent random conflict that you go out in the street and you punch some dude because he looked at you the wrong way, or you shout at a woman on the phone because you have differing opinions. It's more that you go to a room where conflict is okay, and conflict is expected. I think that's the other thing, right? It's an expectation of conflict, and it's not conflict for conflict's sake, but it's conflict for progression's sake.
Yeah, I think again for me, the way I see that is like it's that's almost conflict with yourself, like you're fighting yourself. If I'm sparring someone, whether it's striking or jiu-jitsu, like you're teaching me things about me. Do you know what I mean? You're exposing my mistakes, so then I know I need to work on this. When I'm like, battling the kettlebells, it's like, okay, that is I'm strong on my left side than my right. Do you know what I mean? So I need to focus on here, or that forms like it's I think self conflict is a real positive thing. Do you know what I mean? And then really that you take away the need from like having to prove yourself to anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Even when I have this idea, when I want to get in the cage in December, that's my goal. Yeah. And I'm like, whoever this person is, like, I'm not I don't really give a fuck who that is or what they're doing, or I don't feel any negative emotions to that person. In fact, I like you. You're on the same path as me. Like, you enjoy this thing that I do. We probably have trained the same way. We're into the same people. We follow the same people, blah, blah. But what you're doing is you're allowing me to meet my fear. That's probably the scariest thing that I will have done at that time. Do you know what I mean? There's so much on the line, like humility, ego, self-belief, embarrassment, pain, and it's like that's it, and you're the vessel for me to meet that part of myself I don't meet. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you're engaging in things like that, the need to abuse the shopkeeper because his pint of milk is 30p more expensive than down the road is not there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I had a 100-kilo man on my back trying to rip my head off earlier today. Like, there's 30p. It's not. So I think that I definitely I like and encourage and work towards that. I guess that conflict of self, battling yourself is a good thing, I think. It's tough it can become I think it's important to try and do it from a loving self, and I cannot do that. I can work from it can be a self-flagellating self place. Do you know what I mean? Get up, go, do more, not enough. And that I think it's just a shite way to live your life, but if it can come from a place that I'm doing this to grow, I'm doing this to gain knowledge and skill, it's beautiful.
So I want to see if I can delve into that a little bit more. You just said that self-conflict is important, and I agree. But then there's two sides of self-conflict, right? There's the self-conflict where, as you say, you're essentially just demeaning yourself and telling yourself that you're unworthy and that you need to do more or whatever, which is something that I'm vastly guilty of.
Yeah, me too.
But then there's also the self-conflict where you're like, oh no, let's see if I can do X. I did 75 kettlebell swings yesterday. Let's see if I can do 80 today, right? Yeah. Let's see if I can do 95 tomorrow. Let's see if I can, and with yourself, with the challenge of MMA, it's like, okay, can I step in the ring? Right? Can I do it? Is it possible? Is it possible for me to make the walk, warm up properly, control my emotions, and then actually perform? Right? And that's a lot of big questions to ask in a very short space of time, right? In that 15 or that hour before, when you're warming up and then you're getting ready and somebody calls your name and you start walking, and then you go to the check-in point where they check your gloves and your mouth guard, and hopefully you've got a groin guard and all that stuff, and then you step in, and then the question of performing. I mean, you could beat Ami, I suspect, right? You're going to do an Ami fight?
Yeah, cool.
So it's 3 3-minute rounds, right? So for 9 minutes, every second you have to question, can I perform? Can I perform? Can I perform? Yeah, it's a massive challenge,
Yeah, I think I'm really up for it. You know, I'm really up for like meeting that I guess part of me. And I think if you're training, I recommend like martial arts to anybody, right? For me, if I'm training like to learn how to fight, and then I'm not up for like putting it to the test, I'm not up for that. Do you know what I mean? If I'm like learning for this, I want to see that it works. But that's just me, and I don't think that everyone that wants to start going on Muay Thai classes should be like, I'm up for getting punched in the face. You know, because it's not fucking normal. Although I think there is an argument that it is normal.
I think it's entirely normal. I just don't think it's good for you.
Yeah, it can be. It's tough if you work in like IT sales. You know, it's going to be tough to like pitch. I guess programming ideas with like two black eyes and a fat nose. But
I've been there.
Yeah, on that.
Yeah. And you know, because I was going to kind of challenge your point, right? Like I don't want to fight anymore, but it's because I fought as a kid, right? I had kickboxing fights from I don't know 8 years old to about 16.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I've just taken too much damage.
Yeah.
Right. So even now when I go to spar, I'm like, oh God, like I don't want to do this because I know the repercussions of this, right? I know the repercussions of the headaches and you know forgetting my name sometimes and stupid shit like that you're gonna get. But you know, I deep down, like at the start of lockdown, I said to my missus, like, I might just fight MMA one day, you know.
Yeah.
And she was like, really? And I was like, fuck it, like I might just do it. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Why not at least have one, right? And just see. And I don't know, maybe in the future I will do. I don't know. But I think you're right. At least in some fashion, you should attempt to test the things that you are being taught. Because otherwise, one, how do you know that you learn? And two, how do you know it works? Right? Do you know what I mean? Like if you step in the cage and you throw whatever your favorite combination is and it lands and you finish the guy, you know it works. Right, definitely works. Now, again, obviously, we would hope that the person that you inflict that damage on is fine and they're able to walk out the cage of their own accord and everything with them is fine and whatever. But you know it works though, you know. And in the same vein, if you get caught with that thing and you're the person that ends up getting finished, then you're like, all right, I know that whatever I was doing doesn't work, right? Or it doesn't work in that specific scenario. But MMA is just it's not as linear as that, you know. Like there's so much chaos to everything. Frankly, I mean, training is chaos. You know, it's controlled chaos, but it's still fucking chaos. And fighting is chaos, right? I mean, you know, I'm sure that you've had scraps on the street just like everyone else has. You know, I'm assuming everyone else has had at least something on the street, and that's fucking chaos, right? Like. To me, I would take a fight in a ring or a cage every single day of the week over an altercation on the street, because there's just there's levels of chaos, right? But yeah, why MMA? Why MMA?
So right, to start off, I've been elbowed in the face once and kneed in the face once, right? Okay. And they're both really like shit.
Oh yeah, that's shit, mate. Not nice.
So like, it's easy for me to say this now. There is a chance, like even like a high probability, that I will start getting lit up. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And although like I spar quite a lot, do you know what I mean? There's a big I don't think that I'll eat my words, but like it'll expose, you know, actually I don't want to do this. Do you know what I mean? This isn't a bit of me. Why MMA? One, like I love it. Like I really love it. There's very little that will like get me up at 4:30 in the morning to travel like an hour to go and train with like a guy that's better than me. But that I would do that every day. What you said about that, like the composure, the lead. So I imagine the camp, although like tough, this is fun. I love that. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to train me 3 times a day and like I know when I'm eating and I'm just in like gladiatorial mode, that is fucking heaven for me. Yeah. I imagine weight cutting is absolutely shit. but like the training, like I'm going to love that I can thrive in that chaos. The obviously the day of it happening, and this again, like I'm talking kind of hypothetically, so you know, I think to fighters that might watch this, they'll think, you know, what is this geezer on about? Like, let's see, come December, you know, then let's see how you feel. But I guess learning to compose yourself in that place of like anxiety, you know, fear, scared, adrenaline, pressure. Like I've done, I used to act a lot as a kid. Yeah,
All right.
it was like there was two things that I loved. One was like making the whole class laugh, and the other one was like running around all day. And in my adult life, there's two things that I like doing. Really, one is both of them are performing. Do you know what I mean? One is like essentially performing in like a martial arts scenario, and the other is like to act. When you've been rehearsing, yeah, for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and then you get to like the night of the play, before you go on, like me, I'm shitting myself. Do you know what I mean? It is so like intense, the feeling of run. Like run. Do you know what I mean? What are you doing? You've never been to drama school. Why have you done this? You're going to fuck this up. Do you even know your lines? Have you built a character? Blah blah. Then you go up, you say your first line. You kind of like, you just do it. It's almost like autopilot. Yeah. And I can imagine it could be similar in like martial arts until either you get knocked the fuck out, like that you're on like an autopilot. I want to learn how to be in control, like in that scenario. Yeah. So I can give the best account of me then. Like if I've prepared like a certain monologue or a certain interaction, like with another character, if I'm just on autopilot, I'm not I feel like I can't give the best account of myself. Do you know what I mean? If I'm in that ring and like the pressure is like so intense and adrenaline, I'm just like, it's almost like I'm subconsciously firing shit off. Although like, you know, there's that happens through drilling and all of that. Like I want to be in control in that moment. Do you know what I mean? That puzzle. I want to be learning how to figure out that puzzle. And I just think for me, I found nothing else on earth that like that does that. And I think it can just correlate into so many different things in life. And there's also like, there's no, for me, it's such like a tangible progression. Yeah. For someone that like, you know, I failed a lot and I never really found things that like, if I put energy into this, like I will get better. If I give a PT, yeah, or like, you know, a striking coach or a grappling coach, here is some money. Yeah. Do 12 privates with me. At the end of 12 privates, I'm like this much better. Do you know what I mean? If I keep going to class in 6 months' time, I'm this much better. For me, it's the most like tangible path of like input in, you know, what I get out basically. And also like, look, I'm young and dumb. Do you know what I mean? And like,
Sure.
and fuck it. Like, whilst I can, I want to get punched in my face, in the face. Like my grandpa was a boxer. He's like a big like inspiration of mine. He gave up after a while. He was like, you know, I didn't want to go down that route. I didn't want to become like a manager's like toy, and I didn't want irreparable damage to my brain. But like he did it, and I want to experience that. I crave it. I think I could talk about it for so long. You know, I think there's a lot of testosterone as a thing that like courses through like men's bodies, and you know, and women have the desire to fight. But I'll talk from a man's point of view because I'm a man, and it's like it's discouraged. Yeah, it's discouraged. Like combat and altercation, physical altercation is discouraged. Like, okay, you can play football, you can play rugby, and blah blah, but like boxing is almost seen as like, no, that's like what the ruffians do, or like jiu-jitsu, you know, that's not a bit of me, that's too intense, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's I'm a better person, I'm a safer person, I'm a more grounded person, I'm a more loving person, like honoring that side of me, as well as the one that likes to like wake up and like spoon Lex and like have dinners and like cry at fucking, you know, emotional scenes in a film, and that's all these other like traits that a human being has and needs to nurture. One of them is like I'm a bit of a wild animal. Do you know what I mean? And like I need to, and I love this kind of like chaos. I love it. And for me to not do that, that's when, you know, it could go into, you know, I guess negative things, booze, drinking. That thing about street fights, you know, I believe like, and it happens on a football pitch as well. You get a load of geezers together, They're all like full of testosterone, full of bravado, full of like ego, and they don't vent it anywhere. They don't vent it. They haven't been humbled. They're not on like this path of like physical growth and failures and successes. You get them together. They then like meet exactly the same version of themselves across like the fucking pub hall or whatever. Someone says something stupid and they're kicking the shit out of each other. And it's like, what do you expect? It's like, we've been doing this for thousands of years. Yeah, it's like, but it's very rare that you get like the you know, the Muay Thai champion, like, you know, head kicking people in Wetherspoons. Do you know what I mean?
Can you imagine?
Yeah, literally. So I think yeah, I don't know. That's my piece on that. I'm just I love it, man. It's so amazing. The people I meet, I've met more people that read like the same books that I want to read and listen to the same podcast and want to learn. Do you know what I mean? Doing in like MMA gyms than I have like anywhere else in my life, to be honest. Obviously, you know, you get lunatics and like thugs and all of that as well, but like it's really it takes a certain kind of person, and the ones that I meet in, I fucking love them. I love them all. So yeah, that's my bit.
There's a couple of things I think, or more than a couple of things. The first thing about like anxiety and controlling the anxiety and whatever, I get more anxious for jiu-jitsu competitions than I ever did for kickboxing fights.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I don't understand why. Because, you know, I've had bad injuries from kickboxing fights. I've never had an injury from a jiu-jitsu competition. I think because I love jiu-jitsu so much that I put way more stock into it, right? And the result of a jiu-jitsu competition affects what I determine my self-worth to be way more than what a kickboxing fight was. But I completely echo your statements about camp, right? So I put myself through a disgusting weight cut for 8 weeks, and it's the happiest I've ever been in my life. Because everything was controlled to the absolute nth degree, and everything was towards one goal, right? Now, I did it completely wrong, and I got battered in the competition because I was just so malnourished and so just utterly depleted. But that 8 weeks was one of the best 8 weeks of my life. Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, you will undoubtedly love it, because the regimen and the focus that's needed, that sustained focus, is incredibly intoxicating. And I think, you know, a lot of MMA fighters, professional MMA fighters, George St. Pierre is one of the best examples. He's like, I fucking hate fighting, the actual fighting, right? He said, but if I could be in camp for the rest of my life and just train, I would do it. I'd do it, right? And, you know, you talk about Donald Cerrone, right? Somebody that's had 50 MMA fights, or probably more, given his gym wars and whatever. But even he, you know, he gets to it against Conor McGregor. He said, I was in the back and I was looking for a window that I could jump out of. I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do it. That's fucking nuts, right? That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
For you to be, you know, 50 fights, whatever he is, deep into his MMA career, and still get so nervous for doing something he does every single day is nuts to me. But excuse me. But I think the overarching point of what you said, you know, you face yourself in that octagon is bang on. It's absolutely bang on. And, you know, the only other thing I will add is something that I think you take for granted, but not in a negative way, is you said, oh, well, if I turn up to jiu-jitsu, an MMA gym, and I'm there for 6 months, I can see tangibly when I get better. Turning up doesn't mean as much as you think it does. What means more is that you turn up wanting to learn. You turn up focused. You turn up being like, in 6 months, I am tangibly going to be better, right? There's people that, you know, I've trained with that have been training for 3-4 years, and they're no better than they were 6 months ago, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months ago, because they turn up and it's a social thing for them. And that's absolutely fine, right? That's absolutely fine. If that's what they take from it, that's absolutely fine. But there are also people like you that turn up and in 6 months, they're a completely different version of themselves, right? And that's just about, again, the Nietzsche thing of the why, right? Well, you want to do it because you want to be a better person, right? You want to progress. You want to be able to kick harder, punch faster, slip punches better. You want to be able to, hit that butterfly sweep you've not been able to hit in ages, or whatever it is, right? That's the difference. And that's something that I think what I mean by you take for granted is because it's like, it's just a necessary prerequisite of why you're turning up. But you should really understand that it's rare that there are people that have that as an already predetermined prerequisite. But yeah, getting the cage in December, that'll be interesting.
Yes, I don't I guess I don't have much to comment on that, but like, for me, when I'm at the front of the class, like when I'm on the mat, I want to learn. You're better than me, I'm going to listen. And there's only a few things in life that I guess catches that attention. And yes, like, there's definitely times where it's like, I'm not really feeling this, I don't want to do it, I can sit on my ass, but I'm there all the time, and I love it.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, other than the MMA fight, a potential MMA fight, what's next? What's going to happen in the next 6 months for you?
So I've written a list of I write a list of goals at the beginning of the year. Yeah, and they have dates on them. Some I've already missed, like deadlines, you know what I mean, and the dates will get moved. Another, like one I ticked off on the 1st of April. I don't really know, right? I kind of live by, there's, if you throw enough shit at enough walls, right, some of it will stick. And I try real fucking hard. And I rarely, it gets me emotional. I rarely say like no, do you know what I mean? I'm up for like walking through a lot of doors, and when opportunities present themselves to me, I take them in spite of, I guess, fears or suspicion of self, and like I've got goals, I've got aspirations, the cogs are in motion. Like I'm on this life, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to read out the list of like, I'm going to do this, fine, that, and the other, but there's I've got stuff that I want to do, and if I achieve 4 out of 10 of them, like I've achieved 4 out of 10. If I do 12 and I set 10, even better. But I'm on it.
It's exciting, mate. Well, look, I think this is a beautiful place to end it. I think I'm overwhelmed by the progression that you've made. I'm overwhelmed by the changes that you've been able to make, and I think that when you meet people, or at least for me, you quickly determine the good parts and the bad parts of them, right? And I think that you're a rare kind of person because you've experienced serious trauma, but you've also been able to make serious choices, right? And I think people that go through hard times and come out a changed person rather than a continuation of that trauma are people that should really be cherished, and I really think that you're one of those people. So not only for the charitable runs or whatever, that sort of pales in comparison to the progression that you've made in your own life, but I think that you should be really, really proud of yourself. And let's fucking roll on December, mate. Let's do it.
Yeah, nice.
Let's do it. But yeah. No, sorry, go on.
No, I guess like, thanks for having me. It's been really nice to do it. I just want to finish on like one thing. I did like a video about it the other day. Like failure was like so I didn't seek it out, it just happened. Yeah, like I was so accustomed to like not winning. Winning was like totally foreign to me. Like I'd come 7th, 8th, 9th, last in the race. Like I wouldn't she doesn't want to go out with me. that chat-up line made me look like a prick. You got banged by him outside of school. You've just been suspended. That opportunity, now you're in prison. Like, it's really tough to break, like, through doing all of that, especially while your brain is a sponge. Yeah, you're like affirming to yourself, like, loser, loser, loser. And I kind of like, you know, have this motto now, and it's like, what if I fucking win? Yeah, and that's like to like everyone, you know, if you can identify with me like at all, yeah, and you're really trying to, like, I guess, break, whether it be like an idea that you have of yourself, or is like affirmed for you by someone else, or like you're trying to progress or something in your life. Like, I think it's very human to think like, in the state of like, I won't succeed, this won't work, yes, I won't achieve the high height. Only few people do that. And it's like, what if I fucking win? Do you know what I mean? What if you do though? What if you get that job? What if she says yes? What if you knock him out? Do you know what I mean? What if you complete that run? And just amongst all of like the tirade of like abuse you're going to give yourself with putting yourself forward for anything in life, just make sure amongst it is like the what if I win? And that is yeah, that's my bit to sign it on something dramatic.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. It's been
It's a pleasure, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah.